Welcome to the Divorce Diaries podcast. One man's anonymous and live account of if he should get a divorce or stay married. He's been cheated on, and he's cheated. Protecting the innocent with changed voice patterns, the omission of names, ages, and genders. His authentic journey and account of the daily events of his marriage are helping him sort out his feelings and not get lost in the ups or the downs. New episodes are released daily. Welcome to the Divorce Diaries podcast. Entire seasons are released on Patreon weeks before anywhere else at Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Link in description. Now for today's episode.
I was listening to a podcast, The School of Greatness, with Lewis Howes, and Dr. Laura Berman made a comment that stuck with me and resonated. Dr. Laura Berman had a very interesting take on butterflies. When you get those, when you meet someone that you're smitten with, what you should do when you experience the feeling of getting butterflies in your stomach. And I bring this up specifically because I've met someone, and this was a little while ago, but I met someone, and you get those butterflies, and Dr. Laura Berman kind of said, well, that's when you feel like everything's going well. This is right. This is maybe my person, and for me, my next person, and it's really good. And it's like you get those butterflies, and you're like, wow, we've got this in common, that in common. And Dr. Laura Berman, and I believe that she was right based on my current state, Dr. Laura Berman says, in a nutshell, this is not a quote, but when you get the feeling of butterflies, you should move the other way. You should almost run away from the situation, because butterflies, sometimes she said something physiologically, like it's your body's way of letting you know there might be fear or danger or something that you should be worried about. And we associate that feeling of newness, probably when we get butterflies or something like that, with something familiar. But Dr. Laura Berman kind of turned it on its head, and she said, if you have that feeling of familiar, what if your feeling of familiar is abuse, mistreatment, someone speaking to you in a way that was unhealthy, disrespect, and you're like, oh. And she said there's a sense of, her words, coming home. You get butterflies, you get kind of excited because you're coming home. And you feel like you didn't expect this to be home, this new relationship, situationship you might find yourself in. But getting the butterflies, all of a sudden, oh. And she's like, oh, nope, go the other way, because you may be associating some very unhealthy things that you've gone through with the last person, the last people. You may be associating that with this new person or situation that you find yourself in. So, as a public service announcement, we should all probably go the other way when we have the feeling of butterflies. And that's one thing that I've learned, because I went the other way when I had the feeling of butterflies. And I'm like, whoa, this feels this way. And I remember back to when I was married. And I remember back to when, oh, this felt that way too. When I was with my ex, this felt this way. Oh, when we talked about this, this is that feeling of us having things in common, this and that. And it made me not see the other things that were really wrong. There were big things with my ex. And as you know, if you've listened to my diary entries for long enough, you know that I've ignored and forgiven cheating. I ignored and forgave the fact that my wife had a boyfriend when we met. And I'm not sure if she did or didn't cheat on him with me, but I had to ask her, as we were intimate, I had to ask her if she'd broken up with him yet, because I felt bad about the fact that she could possibly be cheating, but I felt and thought to myself, she wouldn't do that. And I didn't understand projection at that time. I didn't understand that I wouldn't do that, and I shouldn't be thinking that she wouldn't do that. That was a big mistake on my part. So when you feel butterflies, go the other way. I can vouch for that. You don't want to be going back home, proverbially speaking, to something that is abusive and harmful.
Wow! That was the Divorce Diaries podcast. The Daily Saga will continue tomorrow. The full season's episodes are on Patreon now. Subscribe for early access. Click the Patreon link in the description. Hopefully, these entries help our anonymous recorder as a form of his own personal therapy. That's his hope and his intention. Will these recordings of life's curveballs lead this family to the best resolution in the end? We'll keep listening. New episodes are released daily on all podcast players, but all episodes are available on Patreon at Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Until next time.